Hi again, everyone. Gary Digital Williams here on Boxing Along the Beltway. Our news and notes on the Boxing Along the Beltway Google app for Android this week, and we are packed this week. We have a whole lot of news. Some of it coming down the pike, even as we speak. We have some updated events coming up. We have we have some tributes to 3 Beltway boxing people who left us this week. So we have some tributes we have to give out, but just a lot of news about what's coming up in March and in April along the Beltway. None of it in the Beltway, unfortunately, other than the Golden Gloves, but we still have some very important bouts coming up in the near future for a number of our Beltway boxers. So we want to give you that information as well. Beltway Boxing News and Notes brought to you by Real Time Pain Relief. From boxers to ballerinas, for shoulder pain and muscle strain and everything in between, Boxing Along the Beltway recommends Real Time Pain Relief, the natural, plant-based, safe, fast, and effective ointment. Go to freepainoffer.com. Buy $10 worth of Real Time Pain Relief. You get a free $10 tube of Real Time Pain Relief. Rub it on. The pain is gone in real time. And by DeborahSpears.com. And right now, Deborah is having a 20% off sale on her jewelry, including that great boxing pendant you can see on that website. For a limited time, all purchases are 20% off. So if you're a new member in the discount code box, and plus there's free shipping, no sales tax. If you're a new member to DeborahSpears.com, you'll get 20% off your purchase. That's Deborah Spears, DEBRA Spears.com. Well, coming up tonight, let's start with tonight first, because tonight 3 amateur boxers will be involved in, and actually this will be in a couple of hours as we record this, the second of the USA versus Ireland boxing tour that will take place Thursday, March 15th at the Mass Mutual Center in Springfield, Massachusetts. Now, Troy Isley and Keyshawn Davis, both out of Alexandria, Virginia, they won their first bouts on this tour. That was back on Monday, March 12th at Club Royale Entertainment Center in Boston, Massachusetts. Isley won a 3-0 unanimous decision over 8-time Irish national champion Brett McGinty of Derry, Ireland. That's Brett McGinty. That was in the middleweight contest. Meanwhile, Keyshawn Davis took a 3-0 decision over light welterweight George Bates of Dublin, Ireland. Now, the U.S. is led by their honorary captain, Irish Mickey Ward, and Ireland is led by the last man to defeat Mike Tyson. Of course, he did that right here in Washington, D.C. back in 2005, and that kind of led to the start of this particular blog, as a matter of fact. That's, of course, Kevin McBride, and he's out of Clones, Ireland, of course. And the U.S. won the first leg of this tour by a score of 8-4. Now, the second one, as we said, takes place tonight. That'll be on Thursday, March 15th, of course, tonight. At the Mass Mutual Center in Springfield, Massachusetts. Both Keyshawn Davis and Troy Isley are scheduled to compete, and so will Amelia Moore, who's also now competing out of the Alexandria Boxing Club in Alexandria, Virginia. I believe it's scheduled to start around 7 p.m., so it'll be starting very soon here in this area, in around the country, and you can see it live. It's a free USA Boxing stream. If you go to usaboxing.org, they have a free live stream of this event coming up. Once again, it's tonight from the Mass Mutual Center in Springfield, Massachusetts. Now, before we go to the schedule for the rest of this month and into April, we got to talk about what took place this past weekend, I should say, in California and in New Jersey. First of all, in California, Mike Yes Indeed Reed, he lost a 10-round unanimous decision to Arnold Barboza Jr. of Los Angeles, California, because Reed's out of Waldorf, Maryland. And that was at the StubHub Center in Carson, California. I think one of the big problems, actually, Reed had 2 problems in this bout. Number one, and he admitted it himself afterwards, he started too slowly in this bout. He really didn't get going until the latter stages of the bout, and by then it was too late. I think part of the reason why he started so slowly, however, I think, is because he had a tough time getting inside Arnold Barboza's 6-inch reach advantage in the contest. Barboza kept Reed at distance with a solid left jab. Barboza made Reed stumble with a big right hook in the 3rd round. Reed was able to stay upright. Reed did a better job down the stretch of cutting the ring off and getting inside Barboza's reach. But at that time, he had lost too many rounds on the scorecards. Reed lost by scores of 97-93 twice and 96-94. So Reed has now lost 2 straight contests. He's now 23-2, 12 KOs, and he's young enough to really get going again, but it's going to be tougher down the road because Barboza was also a top-ranked fighter, as Reed is, and given the result of the fight, I would guess that Top Rank and Bob Arum would lean more toward working with Barboza and making Reed kind of earn his way back into the graces, so to speak, and maybe become opponent for some of the other boxers that Top Rank may have in store. So it could be interesting to see what happens with Mike Reed in this situation. And unlike a lot of boxers who probably could go up and do some damage, Reed's doesn't have that luxury. Reed does not have the luxury to go up in weight and find a better career. And I don't really think he has a luxury to go back down in weight and do that. So he's kind of stuck where he is at the moment. And that could be tough down the road. So we'll see. Hopefully he can bounce back. And we'll have to see what happens with Mike Yes Indeed Reed. Once again, he's 23-2 now, 12 KOs. Barboza is 18-0 with 6 KOs. Meanwhile, Wills the Prophet Lockett out of Tacoma Park, Maryland, cruiserweight, he won a 6-round majority decision over Prince Badi Ajamu of Camden, New York. That was on March 10th. That's Saturday as well, at the Claridge Hotel in Atlantic City, New Jersey. Now, we don't have a lot of information on how this bout went, but Lockett did win by scores of 59-55 and 58-56. One judge scored about even at 57-57. So Lockett, who, again, just kind of goes up and down a little bit, he will get a win every now and again. He gets knocked out every now and again. He may get disqualified every now and again, but you can't say he doesn't compete for the most part. And he did it again, and Lock is now 16, 22, and 6 with 5 KOs. Ajamu falls to 28-4-1, 15 KOs. So a lot of people are calling this a pretty minor upset right now with this win for Wills Prophet Lockett, so congratulations to him. Now, let's get into the schedule. This schedule, and I tell you, it seems to be growing on a daily basis with a lot of things that are happening this week. First of all, before we get into, once again, no Golden Gloves this week. They're taking a week off. The second semifinal will be on Saturday, March 24th from the Roman Rose Clark Raceway in Fort Washington, Maryland. So no Golden Gloves this week. And don't forget, the Washington Golden Gloves Championship Finals will be on Saturday, April the 7th, and that'll be at Rosecroft beginning at 7:30. We hope to have live blow-by-blow coverage of that card, the Washington Championship Finals on April the 7th, and then the regional championships will be on Friday, May 4th. The reason why it's on a Friday is because Saturday, the first Saturday in May, is, of course, the Kentucky Derby, and, of course, Rosecroft being the type of place that it is, a racetrack, at its core, we'll be doing a lot with the Kentucky Derby that particular day. So it'll be on Friday, May 4th at 7:30 for the regional championship finals. But the Washington Championship Finals, once again, Saturday, April 7th. Now let's look at the schedule. We start this coming Saturday, March 16th. This coming Friday, March 16th, when Juan Rodriguez, who now goes by his middle name, Juan de la Cruz Rodriguez, and he's no longer the Savior Rodriguez. He's out of Haymarket, Virginia, super lightweight. He'll return to action in an 8-round contest against Daniel El Gallo Gonzalez of Woodhaven, New York. That'll be on Friday, March 16th at the Paramount Theater in Huntington, New York. Rodriguez is 8-7-1, 6 KOs, and he looks to build off a victory he had in his last bout. He scored a second-round TKO over Maynard Allison. That was on September 29th. In Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. I believe it was at 2300 Arena. Gonzalez, meanwhile, is 14-1-1, 5 KOs. He suffered his first pro loss in his last outing, and he suffered a third-round TKO to Danny O'Connor on November 25th in Uncasville, Connecticut at Mohegan Sun Casino. Danny O'Connor, by the way, I believe competes coming up on Saturday, March 17th, St. Patrick's Day. So Rodriguez, again, kind of up and down, but coming off a victory here, so we'll see what happens when he takes on Gonzalez coming up on Friday, March 16th from the Paramount Theater in Huntington, New York. We should get the weights for that relatively soon, and we'll pass it on to you through the blog, boxingonthebeltway.blogspot.com. Now, on Saturday, March 24th. This bout will take place in Hamburg, Germany at the Insel Park Hall in Hamburg, Germany. Baltimore, Maryland light heavyweight Travis Severe Reeves will take on Taro Murat of Bayern, Germany on Saturday, March 24th. And the bout will be for the vacant IBO World Light Heavyweight Championship. So this is a world title as far as the International Boxing Organization is concerned, and that's becoming a pretty big federation. Not as big as the Big Four, but it's just slightly below, but it's considered a world title. And Travis Severe Reeves will be involved with it against Cairo Murat. Now, Reeves, of course, is the USBO light heavyweight champion, and he is also the former Maryland State Cruiserweight champion. And, of course, he was one of our Tri-Beltway Boxing Prospect of the Year in 2016, along with Lamont Rose Jr. and Michael Fox. Reeves is 15-2-2, 7 KOs. He's won 12 straight bouts, including winning that USBO championship in the second round TKO over Aaron Catroci in December of 2016. That was at the Burns Arena in Baltimore. Of course, you heard that bout right here on the Box on Beltway Google app for Android. In his last outing, however, he won a 4-round disqualification over Josue Obando on June 17th, also at the Burns Arena. Murat, 31-3-1, 20 KOs. He's won a number of regional and regional world titles. He's currently the IBF International Light Heavyweight and the European Boxing Union Light Heavyweight champion. He won that EBU title in his last bout, an 11th round TKO over previously undefeated Dominic Boisel on July 1st in Dresden, Germany. Now, Murat actually once challenged for the IBF World Light Heavyweight title. He dropped a 12-round unanimous decision to Bernard Hopkins back in December of 2013 in Atlantic City, New Jersey. So this is a big bout for Reeves, and as far as I know, he is not in Germany yet, and you got to wonder why that's not the case. You got the time change and the atmosphere change. A lot of things can happen in that situation, and I've seen it happen too many times where guys don't go over to overseas to compete, and when they get there, they haven't adjusted to the time change. It's like a 5-6 hour difference in time. Haven't adjusted to the weather, and they come out very, very flat in the bout. So we hope that doesn't happen to Travis Reeves, but I'm wondering why he's not there already. We've seen both sides of that. Of course, when Keith Holmes fought Hassan Sharifi the first time in his title defense, I think he went a week before the fight was scheduled to take place, and he was just totally out of it. And he lost his world title that night. On the flip side, we saw where Hasim Rahman Sr. went over to South Africa, and when he beat Lennox Lewis, he'd been over there a couple of weeks, if not longer, and he had been totally adjusted to the atmosphere, the climate, and he was ready to go. And, of course, Lennox Lewis did not take that bout seriously, and he paid for it and lost the title, one of the biggest upsets in boxing history, in all honesty. So best wishes to Travis Reeves. He goes after the IBO World Light Heavyweight Championship. That'll be once again on Saturday, March 24th at the in Hamburg, Germany. Meanwhile, this just came over the wire just today. Slick Nick Kisna was scheduled to be on a card on Friday, March 30th in Hauts de Seine, France, at the Palais des Sports Marcel Cerdan. He was scheduled to be fighting for the vacant WBA Intercontinental Cruiserweight title against French boxer Hervé Lofidi. However, Kisner posted on his Facebook page today that he suffered a rib injury in his last bout. That was back on March 3rd against Brian Holstein in Columbus, Ohio. That's the bout that he won the NABA USA Cruiserweight title for the second time. Kisner said that the pain that he suffered in that bout when he got hit in the rib injury during the 8th round of that bout wouldn't go away. And he finally went to see a doctor for it, and the doctor said, "You can't go. You have a broken rib." And that's what he has, a broken rib. And so that bout is now off on Friday, March 30th. Kisner will not go to France to take on Hervé Lafide. So tough break for Nick Kisner. Again, getting right back in the ring after that big win over Brian Holstein. But he cannot go on March 30th. So tough break for Nick Kisner. However, another Baltimore boxer has a big bout on that very same day, March 30th. That is Baltimore welterweight Malik Iceman Hawkins. He'll take on Raymond Tito Serrano of Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. That'll be, once again, on Friday, March 30th, and that'll be at the Fillmore in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. The two boxers will battle for the vacant NABA USA welterweight title. Now, Hawkins was the 2017 Beltway Boxing Prospect of the Year. He ran away with that. He had a great year. 12-0, 9 KOs right now, coming off back-to-back stoppages in his last two outings, including a 7th-round stoppage over Juan Jesus Rivera. That was on November 4th in Ashburn, Virginia, at the Silver Eagle gun factory there. Serrano is 24-4, 10 KOs. He's won 3 in a row, including an 8-round disqualification victory over Enver Halili. That was on November 18th in Atlantic City. Now, Serrano has lost 3 of his 4 bouts to undefeated boxers, and the only other loss he had came against Emmanuel Taylor, one of our own Beltway boxers out of Edgewood Arsenal, Maryland. He stopped Serrano in the 6th round in Huntington, New York, back on January of 2013. So this is a nice step up for Malik Hawkins, and we'll see really where he is at this point. If he can get past Raymond Serrano, he's in great shape. He'll be ranked, and he'll be in great shape going forward towards a world title. So best wishes to Malik Iceman Hawkins, who takes on Raymond Tito Serrano, and that'll be on March 30th at the Fillmore in Philadelphia. Of course, he's going into the Lions Den because Serrano is from Philadelphia, so we'll see what happens there. Now let's move into April. And again, April has gotten bigger since we talked to you last week. Of course, we talked about the 2 bouts in April, the 2 championship bouts. Jared Hurd in a unification bout against Arislani Lara. Hurd puts his IBF title against Lara's WBA junior midweight title. That'll be at the Hard Rock Hotel and Casino, Las Vegas, Nevada. Also, Gervonta Davis fighting former WBA featherweight champion Jesus Cuellar of Buenos Aires, Argentina. That'll be on Saturday, April 21st from the Barclays Center in Brooklyn, New York. Both those bouts will be on Showtime. But we just found out over the last 48 hours or so, a lot more boxing coming down the pike in April. Also on Saturday, April 7th, and this bout will take place at the Echo Hotel Convention Center in Lagos, Nigeria. And actually we have one Beltway boxer and another guy who is now moved out of the area, but we definitely want to talk about him even though he's moved out of the area. Now, of course, the real Beltway boxer and, of course, the Beltway legend himself, the ageless wonder, DeMarcus Chop Chop Corley, will be back in action as he'll take on Jesus Jibarito Ortega of Hermosillo, Sonora, Mexico. Now, Corley, as we said, 50, 29-1, 28 KOs, coming off that 8-round unanimous decision loss to Hammer and Hank Lundy back on February 10th in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Jesus Ortega is 15-2 with 10 KOs, and he has not fought anybody, and I mean he has not fought anybody the caliber of DeMarcus Corley. And here's a situation again where Corley's being used primarily as a gatekeeper, but he's one of those gatekeepers that if you're not on your P's and Q's, you're not ready to go, you will lose. Ortega's last bout was against a guy who was 0-6. How this prepares you for a guy who has 50 wins, I do not know. So this could be very interesting to see what happens. And again, Corley traveling literally all over the world for bouts, and it looks like he'll be ready to go on Saturday, April 7th against Jesus Ortega in Lagos, Nigeria. Now, another boxer on this card, this is a guy who, again, fought out of this area for many years, fought out of Virginia as well as out of Baltimore. And he's originally from Nigeria. And this is sort of a homecoming for him, and only his second bout that he's had in a couple of years. So about a guy by the name of Emmanuel Chukwu Nwodo. And Nwodo is 24-6, 20 KOs. He's only fought a couple of times in the last couple of years, but At one time, he was an outstanding cruiserweight. He was the USBA cruiserweight champion at one time. And, of course, many people remember him as being the guy who was defeated in one of the most explosive knockouts that I have ever seen in my years of doing this. And, I didn't see it live. I saw it on television. It was on ESPN2. And to tell you the truth, I'm kind of glad I didn't see it live because I don't know if I would have recovered from it myself. I know people who did see it live, including my buddy, the photographer Mike Greenhill, who went up to Staten Island, New York for this bout. This is when Emmanuel Nwodo took on Darnell the Dingling Man Wilson back in 2009 in Staten Island, New York. The bout was televised live on ESPN, and it was, again, one of the most explosive knockouts that you will ever see. In fact, Joe Tessitore, who called the bout with Teddy Atlas that night, called it the most explosive knockout, and I think it was voted the most explosive knockout in the history of ESPN broadcast. I'm trying to think. I don't think it was a Friday night fight. That was an ESPN special, but I'm not 100% sure of that. But Tessitore was awed by it. I mean, his call of it is legendary. It's on YouTube. You want to see? Just look up Darnell Wilson versus Emmanuel Nwodo. That whole bout was unbelievable in the sense that the bout really could have gone either way. Both guys were landing great shots. And going back that week, I remember talking to both guys during the week, and they knew it was going to be fireworks in that bout. And it turned out to be exactly that. I know Darnell went down at least once or twice, but the knockout that Wilson laid on Nwodo, I'll be honest with you, for a few seconds, I didn't think Nwodo was getting up. I really didn't. And I know I talked to him a couple years later, actually. And, he said, I asked him, are you okay? I mean, I just asked him straight, are you okay? He said, yeah, he's fine. He's fine. But it was an unbelievable knockout. And again, if you want to see it, it's on YouTube. You can find it on YouTube. Just go to Darnell Wilson versus Emmanuel Nwodo. But Nwodo in this bout, he's fighting now out of Beaufort, Georgia, by the way. Again, 24-6-0, 20 KOs. He's taking on Zach Page, a veteran out of Warren, Ohio. He's 21-45-2 with 7 KOs. So that's a 10-round bout. By the way, Corley's bout again, so take it as a 12-round bout, according to my information here. So we'll see what happens with those two guys. A couple guys that are very near and dear to what we're doing here. Nwodo, former USBA champion, and of course Corley, the former WBO super lightweight champion, who is fighting primarily as a lightweight these days. And I'll be interested to see how he continues with that. So best wish, that'll be on once again Saturday, April 7th from the Echo Hotel Convention Center in Lagos, Nigeria. Now, this bout just came place down the pike just a few hours ago. And this is going to take place on Friday, April the 13th at the Sands Bethlehem Event Center in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania. It's a co-feature bout on this card. It's a King's Promotions card. And it'll be Luton Lights Out Smith out of Bowie, Maryland. He's recorded 9-2, 8 KOs. He'll take on Elvis Sanchez. And Sanchez is out of Paterson, New Jersey. He's 8-3-1 with 6 KOs. Now, Smith, of course, he had the knockout of the year in 2017, knocked out Darnell Pierce at Rosecroft Raceway. He is coming off a 4-round split decision loss to, actually, let's see, is that a loss? I didn't write this, so I'm going through the notes here. Yes, I think he did lose that bout. Yes, he lost the 4-round split decision to Lamont Capers back on November 30th at the MGM National Harbor in Oxon Hill, Maryland. So, yeah, so he's bouncing back off a loss there against Lamont Capers. Of course, Lamont Capers can be very, very tricky. Meanwhile, Elvis Sanchez, as we said, 8-3-1, 6 KOs. He stopped Khalid Whitmore in his last bout back on August 11th in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. And he also has a loss, and I believe this loss took place on the card that featured Lamont Peterson taking on Kendall Holt at the DC Armory. He scored a knockout win over Vinroy July, who was undefeated that time. Yes, that bout took place at the at the DC Army during the Kendall Holt and Lamont Peterson card there. And now also there's a possibility that Greg the Sharpshooter Outlaw, who's also a King's Promotions boxer, will be on this card. I'm not 100% sure that's correct, but I know he said he's got something coming up, and I believe it is on this date, Friday, April 13th. We'll find out more about that as we go along. So that's Friday, April the 13th. And the main event on that card, by the way, features a guy that's been in our area off and on for quite some time. That's Oshaki Foster. Foster's out of Houston, Texas, 12-2, 8 KOs. He'll take on Frank D'Alba of Reading, Pennsylvania. He's 22-2 with 9 KOs. He'll be his first bout in a little over a year. His last bout, he won an 8-round unanimous decision over Ryan Kazuski at the Sands Bethlehem Event Center back on April 4th. Foster, as we said, 12-2, 8 KOs. He last beat Kalen Alfred on January 20th in Houston, Texas. So Oshaki Foster's been here a few times here. So that'll be interesting to see what he does in that bout there. So we'll give you more information about that one on Friday, April the 13th. Then we go to Saturday, April the 28th, and this will be at the Licorice Center in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, on the campus of Temple University. And this is a big bout for a guy that be interesting to see what he does with this. And this will be I think it'll be his toughest bout, even tougher than the loss he had to Steve Rolls and the loss he had to Lecon Byfield, which probably shouldn't have happened. But this, I think, will be his toughest bout to date. We're talking about Damon, the best at it, Nicholson, out of Laurel, Maryland. He's 18-2-1, 17 KOs. He'll take on a guy that I think has been very, very good. He's a tough one, no question about that. His name is Jesse, either Hard Work or Hollywood Hart, out of Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. He's 23-1, 19 KOs. Now, Damon Nicholson has scored a win, a loss, and a draw in his last 3 bouts. He had a draw against Emmanuel Aline back in July of 2016 in Quebec, Canada. 8-round majority decision draw there. Steve Rolls, he fought at the Turning Stone Resort and Casino in Verona, New York. On June 9th, he lost an 8-round split decision. I thought he fought very good on that bout. Thought he fought very well on that bout. And he didn't come up with the victory there. Lost an 8-round split decision. Then he came back and beat Josue Obando back on August 25th at the Buffalo Run Casino, Miami, Oklahoma. Won a 2nd-round stoppage there. I believe Obando just got stopped. He couldn't come out for the 3rd round on that card. Meanwhile, Jesse Hart, as you said, 23-1, 19 KOs, coming off a 1st-round TKO over Thomas Awinbono. That was on February 3rd at the Bank of America Center in Corpus Christi, Texas. And that was after losing his very first bout in his pro career. He lost a contest for the WBO super middleweight title. He lost a 12-round unanimous decision to Gilberto Ramirez in Tucson, Arizona on September 22nd. Now, prior to that bout, he fought in the Beltway on April 8th. On that card, and he won a 5th-round TKO over Alan Campa. He won the NABO super middleweight title as well as the USBA super middleweight title on that bout. That was at the MGM National Harbor in Oxon Hill. So this is a tough bout, and it is going to be on television. It's going to be on ESPN. In fact, it's the main event on ESPN in front of the Licorice Center in Temple University. So this is a big bout for Damon. If he wants to stay relevant in this in the super middleweight division, which I think is a wide open division, to be perfectly honest with you, he has to beat Jesse Hart, and that's going to be no easy task. I tell you, Hart is very impressive, and Damon is too. Damon has great. These are 2 guys that have great knockout ability. Again, Damon has 17 knockouts in 18 fights. Hart has 19 knockouts in 23 fights. So this bout could go either way if the right Damon Nicholson shows up. If he gets off to a good start, this bout can go either way. Again, kind of like Malik Hawkins coming up next week, couple weeks. Nicholson goes into the Lions Den. He goes into Hart's hometown of Philadelphia. Big crowd should be on hand at the Licorice Center in Philadelphia. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens in that bout. So best wishes to Damon Nicholson on April 28th. At the Licorice Center in Pennsylvania, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. We'll tell you more about that as we go along. So that is the schedule. And again, we are packed and maybe more on the way. Unfortunately, the majority of it, in fact, all the pro stuff, nowhere near the Beltway. As a matter of fact, let me say this as well. I did an interview a couple weeks ago with Tony Bell of Money Round Boxing, talking about a card that was scheduled to be at Rosecroft on March 31st, the first Money Round Boxing card. That will not happen. Looks like it'll be sometime in April, so hopefully they'll get that squared away. But again, the pickings have been slim because as you see by the schedule, some of our best prospects and fringe contenders, and of course our champions, they are moving out of the area. And some of the ones who are staying in the area, well, let's say this. It's costing more and more money to get these boxers on local shows because they're starting to make road trips. They're starting to win more money, get more money, and they come back here asking for money, and a lot of promoters cannot pay that money. So that's where we're going in that situation right now. We are in really tough water right now, and don't know how we're going to get out of it. Perfectly honest with you, there's scheduled to be a card back in June, coming up at Martin's West. I'm sorry, at the Burns Arena. No, I think it is at Martin's West. Martin West, Woodlawn, Maryland. Lee Calkins scheduled to be on that card. Travis Reeves scheduled to be on that card. Tyree Shear Douglas scheduled to be on that card. But I'll be honest with you. I mean, because of their connection with Shabazz brother, that's the only way they can get those two guys on that card. But who else is going to be there? The pickings are slim right now, so we'll have to just wait and see what goes on in the Beltway. But we have not had a pro card yet in the Beltway so far this year. Now, switching gears. This week started off with three sad situations. One was very tragic. We'll get to that one a little bit later on. But we lost two Beltway legends this week, both on the same day, as a matter of fact, Monday, March 12th. Monday, March 12th. We lost two legendary Beltway boxing trainers. The first, Frank Gilbert. Now, Frank Gilbert, tall man, very nice, soft-spoken guy. He was the head trainer for many years at the Lock Raven Boxing Club in Baltimore, Maryland. He trained popular local boxers like Eddie Van Kirk, Tony's Speedy Van Kirk, the late Speedy Van Kirk, Tony Cyclone Saigon, one of the more exciting boxers we had in the Baltimore area back in the early days of this blog. Also, Chuck Pitbull Sturm, who appeared a couple times on Boxing Spotlight, and Jed the Punisher Phipps, who was a heavyweight and actually appeared on both Boxing Spotlight for a little bit and on my blog, Boxing on the Beltway. Gilbert was also a past president of the South Atlantic Association of USA Boxing and of Ring 101. The guy was really a solid guy, very quiet. He didn't say a whole lot, but he brought some great Baltimore boxers to the forefront. He was a mentor and a father figure to a number of local boxers in the area. Jake Smith says he was like a father to him. Again, he had some really solid boxers that are coming out of Lock Raven, and kind of fixture on the amateurs for a long time. I heard he had Parkinson's disease. And passed away. I don't know how old he was, but always a nice guy. He and I had a great relationship. Again, very quiet guy. He didn't say a whole lot, but very popular in the Baltimore area, and really tough situation. One other note, as we continue this, I want you to mark down 1 week from tonight, Thursday, March 22nd, there'll be a amateur card at Michael's 8th Avenue in Glen Burnie, Maryland, and Jake Smith calls it one of the saddest events he has to do. He's on this event, he's going to have a tribute to both Scott Wagner and Frank Gilbert now. And also he's raising money for Brenda Davis, the first lady of amateur boxing, not only in this area, but around the country. We'll talk more about that next week. But again, these people were very close to, were very close to Jake Smith, and in all honesty, very close to me as well. So that'll be Thursday, March 22nd from Michael's 8th Avenue, Glen Burnie, Maryland. Another person that was very close to me was Eugene Thunder Hughes. Now, he also passed away on March the 12th. This one also is very tough because I got to know Mr. Hughes very, very well. He'd been like a friend to me for more than 20 years. For almost 40 years, he was a fixture in DC up on Northwest at the Midtown Youth Academy. Now, he trained a lot of amateurs out of that gym. Pro-wise, he didn't have as many successes, but he did train the likes of Jasper Baby Ray Goddard. And I'll never forget, doing Boxing Spotlight days, he had a major upset in a win on Boxing Spotlight. And we really thought he was going to go somewhere, even though he had a kind of a 500 record, but he looked like he was turning things around. He had some crime issues, unfortunately, but he was a good boxer. And of course, his main claim was Lisa Foster Cohen, who was a 3-time world female champion. But over the years, I got to know Mr. Hughes, learned a lot about his background too. I used to work at a school, Spingarn High School in Northeast DC, and his picture is in the Hall of Fame up there. Or was before they tore the building, or not tore the building, but they closed the school. And his picture was there. And I asked him about it one time, and he told me his life story. At one time, he was a Black Panther. He was in the latter days of the Black Panther, and they had a branch here in Washington, D.C. He was a part of that. So he had an incredible life. And when I worked at another school in D.C., which was right around the corner from Midtown Youth Academy, so I used to drop in every now and again and talk to him. He was kind of in declining health at that point, but he was still pretty spry. I remember the last time I saw him was back in November at the card at the Merrick Recreation Center in DC, and I remember Disclamine Jones introduced him, and actually he came up in the ring, believe it or not. So a little worried about that, but he made it okay. I worked Mr. Hughes on the Mayor's Cup one year. He was in charge of the Mayor's Cup one year, and that went well. When I saw him in his last couple of years, he was always saying how he was working for President Obama. Now, I don't know whether that was true or not, but he always walked around with an Obama hat on. But he was an incredible guy, and he and Gilbert, he and Mr. Gilbert influenced scores of young men and women. You're looking at Facebook pages, and many people were touched by both men. As all the great trainers we have in our area do, they really influence people. And it's like being a teacher. You can't save everybody. And there have been a lot of folks in this area, for whatever one reason or another, were caught up in some mess. And they unfortunately lost their lives. A lot of it were accidental. They seemed to be in the wrong place in the wrong time. Sometimes they just couldn't stay out of the lifestyle. But you can't save everybody. And as a teacher, I know this as well. You cannot save everybody. You try to do the best you can. And if you just get a few to just be touched by what you have said to them, what you've done for them, then it is a complete situation. And both these men can say that. There are a lot of people whose lives were saved by Eugene Thunder Hughes and Frank Gilbert. So we don't know about services for either one. We do know that Mr. Gilbert's service won't be until sometime either late spring or in the summer. They're going to wait until then to get that service going. And as far as Mr. Hughes is concerned, apparently, according to some people I've heard, he did not have a whole lot of money for a burial. I mean, just about every scent that Mr. Hughes had went into the Midtown Youth Academy, to the point where he actually sold his house to pay for repairs for the gym. Back in 2005, he did that. So it wasn't a whole lot of insurance, wasn't a whole lot of money there. So I think they're trying to raise money for a proper service for Eugene Hughes. So we'll see if that takes place there. When that takes place, we'll see about that. And again, Gilbert's service won't be until sometime in the summer. So again, we'll be updating you on that. But two great men, and we are going to be we are less off now because of them. I mean, we've lost some really solid people in the last few weeks, and these two add to it. And so does this guy. And this is a tragic story. This is a very, very sad story. And this goes back to Monday, March 12th, as a matter of fact. There was a suspect in a road rage incident. And according to the Allen Now website, and the site quotes in a New York Police Department spokesperson, Nassau County Police in Great Neck, Long Island, shot and killed a man after he had been on a crime spree that allegedly began in Bordentown, New Jersey. And that's where he allegedly robbed an individual of a vehicle. He later allegedly robbed a 77-year-old man and fled in that man's car before striking and killing a 50-year-old man in Brooklyn 2 days later. Now, in Long Island, he apparently attacked two men with a baseball bat in a road rage incident that took place near the Equinox Gym. He refused to drop the weapon when he was confronted by the officer, and police opened fire and they killed him. Now, the suspect in question in this situation turned out to be a Beltway boxer from the past. His name was Magic Michael Ward, and he was a super welterweight who fought out of Fort Washington, Maryland back in the 1990s. His pro career started around 1989, but he was very promising at that point. He was a very talented boxer, very well known as an amateur in the late 80s and mid-late 80s. And he's probably best known, however, for something he did during a sparring session. When he was 19 years old. Beltway legend and Hall of Famer Sugar Ray Leonard was in a sparring session. He was scheduled to take on Terry Norris. And Ward walked in the ring that day. He sparred with Sugar Ray Leonard, and he knocked Sugar Ray Leonard down during the sparring session. Of course, again, this was in the twilight of Leonard's career, but as a 19-year-old, you knock down somebody who's a 6-time world champion. That says a lot for you. No question about that. And apparently he did it again because he knocked down another future champion, Meldrick Taylor, during a sparring session in Phoenix, Arizona. So he was a talented boxer. I remember him very well, very talented boxer out of this area. Did not have the career that he wanted to have, primarily because he had legal troubles. In the mid-90s, he took 5 years off, primarily because he was in jail during that time period. He did have a solid career, however. He was 24-4, 19 KOs. His biggest victories came against Joe Gatti, who was the older brother of the late Arturo Gatti. He won a 6-round unanimous decision back in 1990 in Atlantic City there. And he also won a first-round TKO over another Beltway legend, Robert Boo Boo Sawyer, in 1991. And, of course, for Sawyer, that was after his bout against Louis Resto, where he now claims, and actually I think Resto pretty much owned up to the fact that his gloves were loaded during that bout before Resto took on Billy Collins Jr. In that bout in New York, where Collins basically got beat up so badly, and he later basically drove himself off a ditch. By the way, Billy Collins' father passed away a few months ago. But Sawyer once said that after the fight against Resto, he didn't want to fight anymore. He really was in bad shape. He didn't care about fighting anymore. And he lost the bout by first round TKO to Magic Michael Ward. Now, the bout that one of the bouts that people wanted to see during that time period in the early and mid-90s was a bout between Michael Ward and another boxer who was really rising at that time frame, Daryl Too Sweet Coley. When we started Boxing Spotlight, the television show we had in our area, there was so much conversation. And even before I got on board with Boxing Spotlight, back when my buddy late Panama Mike Payne was doing the show, there was so much conversation between Ward and Coley about that bout taking place. Coley would Joan on Ward. Ward would Joan back at Coley, and it would at Coley, and they would just go back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. But the bout, for whatever reason, maybe because Ward was in legal problems for 5 years, in 1992, 1997, the bout never happened. And actually, after all was said and done, Coley and Ward turned out to be very good friends up until this point. So it was a very, very interesting time frame. But Ward was a very talented boxer, just didn't take advantage of his talent. He couldn't get out of the life, so to speak, and apparently that continued on now. Ward passed away at the age of 46. He sent our deepest condolences, but this was tough because, again, Ward was a very, very popular boxer in the area. I'd be wanting to see that bout against Daryl Coley, but just never happened. So those are the three tributes we had this week. A tough week for us in that regard, but again, a huge week as far as some of the updates we have. We have more hopefully in the next couple of weeks as we get closer and closer to these big bouts taking place in March and in April. April once again turns out to be the awesome April of Beltway boxing. It's just a shame that none of these bouts take place in the Beltway area. That'll do it here for another edition of Beltway Boxing News and Notes. We were kind of long today, but again, we had so much information we had to pass on to you, so we appreciate you staying with us. Beltway Boxing News and Notes brought to you by Real Time Pain Relief. You go to freepainoffer.com, buy $10 worth of Real Time Pain Relief, you get a free $10 tube of Real Time Pain Relief. Rub it on, the pain is gone in real time. And also by DeborahSpears.com. And there's 20% off if you're a new member to DeborahSpears.com. You purchase something and you will get 20% off that purchase plus free shipping as well. So they'll go to Deborah Spears, DEBRA Spears.com. Thanks for joining us, everybody. I'm Gary Digital Williams, and always remember to keep supporting the best boxing in the world, the boxing along the Beltway. Thanks for listening. Take care.